Check to make sure we are online. Check to make sure we are online. Great. Everything seems to be working. All right. Let's chant. Check the tuning on this. Whoops, that's a problem. Romuracha Ratana Kore Sakar Narodamuridas Hare Hare Murli Dana Yane Mavinir Goranga Murli Dana Magacharya Hare Hare Murli Dana Yane Mavinir Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parakacharya Also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chadananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shitwaida Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budale. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarane. So, let me read the translation. When will that opportune moment come to me when I shiver upon chanting the name of Lord Gauranga? When will I cry while chanting Hare Krishna? When will I receive the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda so that my desires for material enjoyment become insignificant? When will my mind be purified of material anxieties and desires so that I can understand Vrindavana? When shall I be very eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis so that I can understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna? The lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis are my only shelter. In constant separation from them, I remain Narottama Das. Narottama Das. Thakur Ki Jai. So we're continuing with our study and reading of Srila Prabhupada's Krishna Book, which is the summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, of course, this Krishna Book was one of the first books that Srila Prabhupada published. It was sponsored by George Harrison. And the Krishna Book is the first book I read. And by reading the Krishna Book and hearing about Krishna stealing the butter and feeding it to the monkeys, then I became attracted to Krishna consciousness. So even though I didn't understand what or who Krishna was, or what the pastimes meant, just by hearing transcendental sound, then it Bhavanti Rikarna Rasayana Kata Joshna Dashu Apavarga Varmani Shradavratir Vakti Nukramishati, and went from my ear to the heart and awakened me to my original nature of Krishna consciousness. So let us continue. Om Gana Timidandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yeda Tasmai Shigadavai Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master's divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So let us share the screen. All right, let's find out where that one is, because we've got a lot of windows opened. All right, there it is. Here we go. And of course we're in the middle of the chapter. And this is of course Kamsa making plans to kill Krishna. Actually, he was informed by Narada Muni that Krishna was the one who was supposed to kill him, and Krishna was actually Vasudev's son, and Vasudeva brought him to Vrindavan and exchanged him for Nanda Maharaj's daughter. So first Kamsa was actually going to kill Vasudeva, but then he decided, by the pleading of Narada Muni, that actually you should not kill him. You actually have to go and take care of the boys, Balaram and Krishna, who were the sons of Vasudeva. All right, and so he was planning all sorts of plans, sending the Kesi demon to kill them, and if that didn't work, bringing them to Mathura. Then there would be the elephant, Kuvalyapita, there would be other impediments, and finally there'd be the wrestling match. So here he is arranging the wrestling match. And of course, the famous wrestlers that Krishna Balaram wrestled with were Chanura Mushtika, and they were actually really strong guys. So wrestling matches are still enjoyed by people in northern India, and it appears from the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam that 5,000 years ago wrestling was also popular. Kamsa planned to arrange such a wrestling competition and to invite people to visit. He also told the trainers of the elephants, be sure to bring the elephant Kuvalyapida and keep him at the gate of the wrestling arena. Try to capture Krishna and Balaram on their arrival and have the elephant kill them. So he was, as we say, he was hedging his bets. In other words, if one thing didn't work, he had a backup plan. And if the backup plan didn't work, he had a backup of a backup plan. And if the backup of the backup plan didn't work, then he had a backup of a backup of a backup plan. And something was going to work according to his material, mundane intelligence. Kamsa also advised his friends to arrange to worship Lord Shiva by offering animal sacrifices and performing the sacrifice called Dhanur Yugda, and the sacrifice performed on the 14th day of the moon known as Chaturdashi. That's a day after Ekadashi. Actually, Prabhupada said this date falls 3 days after Ekadashi. No, Dwadasi is the day after Ekadashi. Dwadasi, Trayodasi, and Chaturdashi. And it is set aside for the worship of Lord Shiva. One of the plenary portions of Lord Shiva is called Kalabhairava. This form of Lord Shiva is worshipped by demons who offer animals killed before him. The process is still current in India in a place called Vaijanatha Dham, where demons offer animal sacrifices to the deity of Kalabhairava. Kamsa belonged to this demoniac group. He was also an expert diplomat, and so he quickly arranged for his demon friends to try to kill Krishna and Balaram. He then called for Akrura, one of the descendants in the family of Yadu, in which Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva. When Akrura came to see Kamsa, Kamsa very politely shook hands with him. Actually, I guess they used to shake hands too. And actually, it's described that when Lord Brahma finally saw Krishna, Krishna shook hands with him also. So shaking hands is actually, or has actually been going on since time immemorial. Because nowadays, to avoid COVID, we go, Namaste. My dear Akrura, actually I have no better friend than you in the Bhoja and Yadu dynasties. You are the most munificent person. So as a friend, I am begging charity from you. Actually, I have taken shelter of you exactly as King Indra takes shelter of Lord Vishnu. I request you to go immediately to Vrindavan. Okay, I guess I have to increase the volume. All right, give me a second. All right, this should do it. I request you to go immediately to Vrindavan and find the two boys named Krishna and Balaram. They are the son of Nanda Maharaj. Take this nice chariot, especially prepared for the boys, and bring them here immediately. That is my request to you now. My plan is to kill these two boys. As soon as they come in the gate, there will be a giant elephant named Kuvalyapina waiting, and possibly he will be able to kill them. But if somehow or other they escape, they will next meet the wrestlers and will be killed by them. That is my plan. And after killing these two boys, I shall kill Vasudeva and Nanda, who are supporters of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties. I shall also kill my father, Ugrasena, and his brother Devakara, because they are actually my enemies and are hindrances to my diplomacy and politics. Thus I shall get rid of all my enemies. Jarasandha is my father-in-law, and I have a great monkey friend named Dvidvita. Wow. So you may be concerned as to why Dvidvita, who was a devotee of Lord Ramchandra and helped Lord Ramchandra rescue Sita Devi, was taking sides with Kamsa. The reason for that is that Dvidvita had committed offenses against Lakshman. He respected Ram, but offended Lakshman. Because he offended Lakshman, he lost his devotional inclination and became demoniac. So we have to be very careful not to offend devotees, or what to speak of offending the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his various expansions, incarnations, but especially devotees. Because when you do that, then you lose your devotional inclination and you can become bereft of faith, and even worse, you can become demoniac. With their help, it will be easy to kill all the kings on the surface of the earth who support the demigods. This is my plan. In this way I shall be free from all opposition, and it will be very pleasant to rule the world without obstruction. You may know also that Shambhara, Natakasura, and Banasura are my intimate friends. Good association. And when I begin this war against the kings who support the demigods, they will help me considerably. Surely I shall be rid of all my enemies. Please go immediately to Vrindavan and encourage the boys to come here and see the beauty of Mathura and take pleasure in the wrestling competition. After hearing this plan of Kamsa's, Akrura replied, My dear king, your plan is very excellently made to counteract the hindrances to your diplomatic activities. But you should maintain equilibrium, for the result of your activities may be fruitful or may not be fruitful. After all, man proposes, God disposes. We may make very great plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the supreme authority, they will fail. Everyone in this material world knows that the supernatural power is the ultimate disposer of everything. But he must know that he will be subjected to the fruits, misery, and happiness. But I have nothing to say against your proposal. As a friend, I shall carry out your order and bring Krishna and Balaram here as you desire. After instructing his friends in various ways, Kamsa retired, and Akrura went back to his home. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 36th chapter of Krishna. Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna. So, just note this down. So this is 36b, because we did 36a yesterday. The A means the first part of 36. Then chapter 37. So there's more demons coming up, especially the Kesi demon that was sent by Kamsa. Killing the Kesi demon and Vyomasura. Vyomasura means the demon who flew in the air. And that's a very interesting story, which we're going to hear. After being instructed by Kamsa, the demon Kesi assumed the form of a terrible horse. He entered the area of Vrindavan with the speed of the mind, his great mane flying and his hooves digging up the earth. He began to whinny and terrify the whole forest. Krishna saw that the demon was terrifying all the residents of Vrindavan with his whinnying and his tail wheeling in the sky like a big cloud. Krishna could understand that the horse was challenging him to fight. The Lord accepted this challenge and stood before the Kesi demon, calling him to fight. The horse then ran toward Krishna, making a horrible sound like a roaring lion. His jaws spread wide open as if to swallow the whole sky. Kesi rushed toward the Lord with great speed and tried to trample him with his legs, which were strong, forceful, and as hard as stone. Krishna, however, immediately caught hold of his legs and thus baffled him. Krishna was somewhat angry, and thus he began to whirl the horse around. After a few rounds, he contemptuously threw him 100 yards away. That's a football field. Just as Garuda throws a big snake. Thrown by Krishna, the horse immediately passed out, but after a little while, he regained consciousness and with great anger and force again rushed toward Krishna with his mouth open. As soon as Kesi reached him, Krishna pushed his left arm within the horse's mouth, and it looked as though a big snake had entered a hole in the field. The horse felt great pain because Krishna's arm fell to him like a hot iron rod. Immediately his teeth fell out. Krishna's arm within the mouth of the horse at once began to expand, and Keshi's throat choked up. As the great horse suffocated, perspiration appeared on his body, and he threw his legs hither and thither. As his last breath came, his eyeballs bulged in their sockets, and he passed stool and urine simultaneously. Thus the vital force of his life expired. When the horse was dead, his mouth became loose and Krishna could extract his arm without difficulty. He did not feel any surprise that the Kesi demon was killed so easily, but the demigods in the sky were amazed, and out of their great appreciation they offered Krishna greetings by showering flowers. So of course this particular pastime occurred at a place called Kesi Ghat on the banks of the Yamuna River. And it's very interesting that Srila Prabhupada and the devotees one time went bathing in this particular location. And first Prabhupada said to the devotees, I'm a little old, the water's a little cold, so you should just go in and bathe. And Prabhupada was watching them bathe and splashing water on each other and saying the Gayatri mantras. And Prabhupada, feeling so much ecstasy, immediately took off his outer garments and entered into the water. And the devotees performed an abhishek on Srila Prabhupada's transcendental body. When Srila Prabhupada's the abhishek with the Yamuna water, they poured it on Srila Prabhupada's head, and sometimes they said different prayers. So there's a pastime. Actually, there's a video of this particular pastime. After this incident, Narada Muni, the greatest of all devotees, came to see Krishna in a solitary place and began to talk with him. "My dear Lord Krishna," he said, "you are the unlimited supersoul, the supreme controller of all mystic powers, the Lord of the whole universe, the all-pervading personality of Godhead. You are the resting place of the cosmic manifestation, the master of all devotees, and the Lord of everyone. My dear Lord, as the supersoul of all living entities, You remain concealed within their hearts, exactly as fire remains concealed in every piece of fuel. You are the witness of all the activities of the living entities, and you are the supreme controller within their hearts. You are self-sufficient. Before the creation, you existed. And by your energy, you have created all the material elements. According to your perfect plan, this material world is created by the interaction of the modes of nature, and by you it is maintained and annihilated. Although you are unaffected by all these activities, you are the supreme controller eternally. My dear Lord, you have advented yourself on the surface of this earth just to kill all the so-called kings who are actually demons. These hobgoblins are cheating people in the dress of the princely order. You have invented yourself to fulfill your own statement that you come within this material world just to protect the principles of religion and annihilate unwanted miscreants. My dear Lord, I am therefore that the day after tomorrow I shall see demons like Chanura, Mushtaka, and the other wrestlers and elephants, as well as Kamsa himself, killed by you. I shall see this with my own eyes. After this, I shall be able to see the killing of other demons like Shanka, Yavana, Mora, and Narakasura. I shall also see you take away the Parijata flower from the kingdom of heaven, and how you defeat the king of heaven himself. So, of course, there's a reference here to how many demons have taken birth as kings on the earth planet. And if you read the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll see that at one particular juncture, the demons were actually killed or wiped out, and basically they were, I guess, betrayed by Bali, who took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, the demons decided, what do they decide? They decided to take shelter on the earth planet, and they decided to take shelter as the princely order or the kingly order on the earth planet. So at that particular juncture, a lot of the kings, the Kshatriyas, they were actually demons. And so Krishna came down to kill these demons. And actually, during the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna arranged for Arjuna and the Pandavas to kill many, actually millions of these demoniac personalities. So you see, Krishna actually rid the earth of these demoniac personalities. Of course, after that, and after Krishna left the planet, Kali actually manifested himself. So in Kali Yuga, everyone is a Shudra, regardless, Kalo Shudra Sambhavat, regardless of whether they're born in Brahminical families, Kshatriya families, Vaishya families, or of course Shudra families, they are. My dear Lord, Narada Muni continued, I shall then be able to see how you marry princesses, the daughters of chivalrous kings, by paying the price of Kshatriya strength. And Prabhupada says, whenever a Kshatriya wants to marry a very beautiful and qualified daughter of a great king, he must fight his competitors and emerge victorious. Then he is given the hand of the princess in charity. I shall also see how you saved King Nriga from a hellish condition, said Narada Muni. So it appears that Narada Muni is what? Trikala Gya. Sound is low. It's actually normal according to here. I can make it even louder if you like, but it's pretty loud. Okay. I also can see how you saved King Nriga from a hellish condition. Said Narada Muni, this you shall enact in Dwarka. I shall also be able to see how you get your wife and the Shamataka jewel, and how you save the son of a Brahmin from death, after he has already been transferred to another planet. After this, I will be able to see you kill the Pundraga demon and burn to ashes the kingdom of Kashi. I will see how you kill the king of Chedi and Dantavakra during the great sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhishthira. King of Chedi, that's of course Shishupala. Besides all this, it will be possible for me to see many other chivalrous activities while you remain in Dwarka. And all these activities performed by your grace will be sung by great poets throughout the world. And at the battle of Kurukshetra, you will take part as the chariot driver of your friend Arjuna, and as the invincible death incarnation, eternal time. You will vanquish all belligerents assembled there. I shall see a large number of military forces killed on that battlefield. My lord, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. You are situated completely in the transcendental position in perfect knowledge and bliss. You are complete in fulfilling all your desires. It's called Aptakama. By exhibiting your internal potency, you have set up the influence of Maya. Your unlimited potency cannot even be measured by anyone. My dear Lord, you are the supreme controller. You are under your own internal potency, and it is simply vain to think that you are dependent on any of your creations. You have taken birth in the Yadu dynasty or the Vrishni dynasty. Your advent on the surface of the earth in your original form of eternal blissful knowledge is your own pastime. You are not dependent on anything but yourself. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. After offering his respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, Narada Muni took permission and left. So here we find Narada Muni wants to accelerate Krishna's pastimes, and he's actually reminding Krishna of the exoteric reason that Krishna came to this earth planet. Of course, there's esoteric reasons, like Krishna wants to enjoy different types of ras that would not take place in the spiritual world, like the ghastly ras, or the anger into the greatest extent. And so Krishna is enjoying this. Another reason Krishna came down, perhaps it's esoteric, a little bit exoteric, is to display his nature so that the conditioned souls in this world will have information about God rather than project their own misconceptions based upon their material experiences on the Absolute. So there's many different reasons, but here Narada Muni is reminding Krishna of his Parichanaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chadushkritam. That means annihilating the miscreants and establishing religious principles and protecting the devotees. Narada Muni wanted to impress upon people in general that Krishna is fully independent, and also Narada Muni is Trikalagya, he knows what's going to happen in the future. He was probably around for the last time that Krishna enacted his pastimes, because every day of Lord Brahma, Krishna appears and enacts his pastimes. His activities, such as appearance in the family of Yadu or his friendship with Arjuna, do not necessarily oblige him to act to enjoy their results. But they are all pastimes, and for him they are all play. But for us, they are actual, tangible facts. After he had killed the Kesi demon, Krishna returned to tending the cows with his friends in the forest, as though nothing had happened. Thus Krishna is eternally engaged in his transcendental activities in Vrindavan with his friends, the cowherd boys and gopis. But sometimes he exhibits the extraordinary prowess of the Supreme Personality Godhead by killing different types of demons. Later that morning, Krishna went to play with his cowherd boyfriends on the top of Govardhan Hill. They were imitating the play of thieves and police. Some of the boys became police constables, and some became thieves, and some took the role of lambs. While they were thus enjoying their childhood pastimes, a demon known by the name of Vyomasura, the demon who flies in the sky, appeared on the scene. He was the son of another great demon named Maya. These demons can perform wonderful magic. Vyomasura took the part of a cowherd boy playing as a thief, and stole many boys who were playing the parts of lambs. One after another, he took away almost all the boys and put them in the caves of the mountain, and sealed the mouths of the caves with stones. Krishna could understand the trick the demon was playing. Therefore he caught hold of him exactly as a lion catches hold of a lamb. The demon The demon tried to expand himself like a hill to escape arrest, but Krishna did not allow him to get out of his clutches. Vyomasura was immediately thrown to the ground with great force and killed, just as an animal is killed in the slaughterhouse. After killing the Vyoma demon, Lord Krishna released all his friends from the caves of the mountain. He was then praised by his friends, by the demigods, for his wonderful acts. He again returned to Vrindavan with his cows and friends. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 37th chapter. Okay, so we finished 37 today. Killing the Kesi demon and Vyomasura. Chapter 38. Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. Narada Muni did not mention Krishna's killing Vyomasura, which means he was killed on the same day as the Kesi demon. The Kesi demon was killed in the early morning, and after that the boys went to tend the cows in Govardhan Hill, and it was there that Vyomasura was killed. Both demons were killed in the morning. Akrura was requested by Kamsa to arrive in Vrindavan by evening. After receiving instruction from Kamsa, Akrura started the next morning via chariot for Vrindavana. Because Akrura himself was a great devotee of the Lord, while going to Vrindavana, he began to pray to the Lord. Devotees are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and Akrura was constantly thinking of Krishna's lotus eyes. He did not know what sort of pious activities he must have performed to gain an opportunity to go see Lord Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan on that day. A pure Vaishnava always thinks himself unfit to serve Krishna, so Akrura began to think within himself that he was unfit for gaining the transcendental opportunity of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He considered himself as unfit for seeing Krishna as a materialistic person is for understanding the science of God, or as a fourth-class person, that is a Shudra, is for studying the Vedas. But then Akrura began to think, by the grace of Krishna, everything is possible, and thus if he likes, I will be able to see him. Just as a blade of grass floating on the waves of a river may by chance come near the shore and gain shelter, a conditioned soul carried away by the waves of material existence may sometimes be saved by the grace of Krishna. Of course, nothing happens by accident. As they say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. So if someone is saved by Krishna, that means basically, apart from Akrura, but in ordinary circumstances, because Akrura is in Krishna's pastimes, in ordinary circumstances it means that Krishna has sent Guru to save that particular individual. Akrura thus thought that if Krishna willed, he would be able to see him. Akrura considered himself most fortunate that he was going to see Krishna, with whom great mystic yogis desired to see. He was confident that on that day all the sinful reactions of his past life would be finished, and his fortunate human form of life would be successful. Akrura also considered that he was very much favored by Kamsa, who was sending him to bring Krishna and Balaram, and thus enabling him to see the Lord. Akrura continued to consider that formerly great sages and saintly persons were liberated from the material world simply by seeing the shining nails of the lotus feet of Krishna. That Supreme Personality of Godhead has now come just like an ordinary human being, and it is my great fortune to be able to see him face to face. Akrura thought. He was thrilled with expectations of seeing the very lotus feet which are worshipped by great demigods like Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva, which traverse the ground of Vrindavan and which touch the breasts of the gopis covered with tinges of kumkum. He thought, I am so fortunate that I will be able to see those very lotus feet on this day, and certainly I shall be able to see the beautiful face of Krishna, which is marked on the forehead and the nose with tilak. And I shall also see his smile and his curling black hair. I can be sure of this opportunity because I see that today the deer are passing on my right side. You know, there's different signs of the Vedic culture. So if the deer pass on the right side, that means something auspicious is going to happen. Today it will be possible for me to actually see the beauty of the spiritual kingdom of Vishnu Loka, because Krishna is the supreme Vishnu, and he has advented himself out of his own good will. He is the reservoir of all beauty. Today, therefore, my eyes will achieve perfection. Akrura knew beyond a doubt that Lord Krishna is the supreme Vishnu. Lord Vishnu glances over the material energy, and thus the cosmic manifestation comes into being. And although Lord Vishnu is the creator of the material world, he is free by his own energy from the influence of the material energy. By his internal potency, he can pierce the darkness of the material energy. Similarly, Krishna, the original Vishnu, by expanding his internal potency, created the inhabitants of Vrindavan. In the Brahma Samhita, it is confirmed that the paraphernalia and abode of Krishna are expansions of his internal potency. The same internal potency Krishna exhibits in Goloka Vrindavan is exhibited in the earthly Vrindavan, where he enjoys himself with his parents and in the company of his friends, the cowherd boys and gopis. By the statement of Akrura, it is clear that since Krishna is transcendental to the modes of material nature, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who are always engaged in loving service to the Lord, are also transcendental. Akrura also considered the necessity of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. He thought that the transcendental activities, instructions, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna are all for the good fortune of people in general. The people can remain constantly in Krishna consciousness by discussing the Lord's transcendental form, qualities, pastimes, and paraphernalia. By doing so, the whole universe can actually live auspiciously and advance peacefully. But without Krishna consciousness, civilization is but a decorated dead body. A dead body may be decorated very nicely, but without consciousness, such decorations are useless. Human society without Krishna consciousness is useless and lifeless. Akrura thought that Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna has now appeared as one of the descendants of the Yadu dynasty. The principles of religion are his enacted laws. Those who are abiding by such laws are demigods, and those who are not abiding are demons. He has advented himself to give protection to the demigods, who are very obedient to the laws of the Supreme Lord. The demigods and the devotees of the Lord take pleasure in abiding by the laws of Krishna, and Krishna takes pleasure in giving them all sorts of protection. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, these activities of Krishna, his protecting the devotees and killing the demons, are always good for men to hear and narrate. The glorious activities of the Lord will ever increasingly be chanted by the devotees and demigods. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the spiritual master of all spiritual masters. He is the deliverer of all fallen souls and the proprietor of the three worlds. Anyone who is able to see him by eyes smeared with love of Godhead enjoys a festival of seeing. Today I shall be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his transcendental beauty has attracted the goddess of fortune to live with him perpetually. As soon as I arrive in Vrindavan, I will get down from this chariot and fall prostrate to offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord, the master of material nature and all living entities. The lotus feet of Krishna are always worshipped by great mystic yogis, so I shall also worship his lotus feet and become one of the friends in Vrindavan like the cowherd boys. When I bow down before Lord Krishna in that way, certainly he will place his fearless lotus hand on my head. His hand is offered to all conditioned souls who take shelter under his lotus feet. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life for all people who fear material existence, and certainly when I see him, he will give me the shelter of his lotus feet. I am aspiring for the touch of his lotus-like hand on my head. When that hand touched the presentations of King Indra and King Bali, these two became qualified to be lords of the universe. And when that hand touched the gopis as they danced with Krishna in the Rasa Leela, it relieved all their fatigue. In this way, Akrura expected blessings from the hand of Krishna. He knew that Indra, who is the king of heaven and the master of the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, was blessed by the Lord simply for his offering a little water which Krishna accepted. Similarly, Bali Maharaj gave only 3 paces of land and charity to Vamanadev, and he also offered a little water which Lord Vamanadev accepted. And thereby Bali Maharaj attained the position of Indra. When the gopis were dancing with Krishna in the rasa dance, they became fatigued, and Krishna wiped his hand, which is as fragrant as a lotus flower growing in the Manasa Sarovar lake, over the pearl-like drops of perspiration on the faces of the gopis, and immediately the gopis became refreshed. Thus Akrura was expecting benediction from that supreme hand of Krishna. Krishna's hand is capable of bestowing benediction upon all kinds of men if they take to Krishna consciousness. If one wants material happiness like that of the King of Heaven, he can derive that benediction from the hand of Krishna. If one wants liberation from the pangs of material existence, He could also get that benediction from the hand of Krishna, and if one in pure transcendental love for Krishna wants personal association and the touch of his transcendental body, he can also gain that benediction from his hand. Akrura was afraid, however, because he had been deputed by Kamsa, the enemy of Krishna. He thought, I'm going to see Krishna as a messenger of the enemy. At the same time, he thought, Krishna is in everyone's heart as the supersoul, so he must know my heart. Although Akrura was trusted by the enemy of Krishna, his heart was clear. He was a pure devotee of Krishna. He risked becoming Kamsa's deputy just to meet Krishna. He was certain that although he was going as a representative of Kamsa, Krishna would not accept him as an enemy. Even though I am on a sinful mission, being deputed by Kamsa, when I approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I shall stand before him with all humility and folded hands. Surely he will be pleased with my devotional attitude, and maybe he will smile lovingly and look upon me and thereby free me from all kinds of sinful reactions. I shall then be on the platform of transcendental bliss and knowledge. Since Krishna knows my heart, certainly when I approach him, he will embrace me. Not only am I a member of the Yadu dynasty, but I am his relative and an unalloyed pure devotee. By his merciful glance, surely my body, heart, and soul will be completely cleansed of the actions and reactions of my past life. When our bodies touch, I will immediately stand up with folded hands with all humility. Certainly Krishna and Balaram will call me Akrura, uncle, and at that time my whole life will be glorious. Unless one is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his life cannot be successful. It is clearly stated here that one should try to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's service and devotion, without which the human form of life is condemned. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, is equal to everyone. He has no friends and no enemies, but he is inclined to a devotee who renders him service with devotional love. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stina priyaha. The Bhagavad Gita also declares that the Supreme Lord is responsive in proportion to the devotional service rendered by the devotee. Akrura thought that Krishna was like the desire tree in the heavenly planets, which gives fruit according to the desire of the worshipper. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also the source of everything. A devotee must know how to render service unto him and thus be recognized by him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is therefore explained that one should serve both the spiritual master and Krishna simultaneously, and in that way make progress in Krishna consciousness. Service rendered to Krishna under the direction of the spiritual master is bona fide service, because the spiritual master is the manifested representative of Krishna. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that when one satisfies the spiritual master, he satisfies the Supreme Lord. It is exactly like service in the governmental office. One has to work under the supervision of the departmental head. If the supervisor of the department is satisfied with the service of a particular person, a promotion and increase in pay will automatically come. Akrura then thought, when Krishna and Balaram are pleased with my behavior, certainly they will take my hand, receive me within their home, and offer me all kinds of respectable hospitalities. And they will surely ask me about the activities of Kamsa and his friends. In this way, Akrura, the son of Shwapalka, meditated on Sri Krishna on his journey from Mathura. He reached Vrindavan by the end of the day. Akrura passed the whole journey without knowing how long it took. When he reached Vrindavan, the sun was setting. As soon as he entered the boundary of Vrindavan, he saw the hoofprints of the cows and Lord Krishna's footprints. Impressed with the signs of his souls, the flag, the trident, thunderbolt, and lotus flower. These symbols are on the soles of the Lord's transcendental lotus feet, are worshipped by all the demigods and other great personalities throughout the three worlds. Upon seeing the footprints of Krishna, Akrura immediately jumped down from the chariot out of respect. He became overwhelmed with the symptoms of ecstasy. He wept and his body trembled. Out of extreme jubilation upon seeing the dust touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, Akrura fell flat on his face and began to roll on the ground. Akrura's journey to Vrindavan is exemplary. One who intends to visit Vrindavan should follow the ideal footsteps of Akrura and always think of the pastimes and activities of the Lord. As soon as one reaches the boundary of Vrindavan, he should immediately smear the dust of Vrindavan all over his body without thinking of his material position and prestige. Srila Narottam Das Thakur is sung in a celebrated song, Vishaya Chadiya Kavi Shuddhahavi Mana. When my mind will be purified after leaving the contamination of material sense enjoyment, I shall be able to visit Vrindavan. Actually, one cannot go to Vrindavan by purchasing a ticket. The process of going to Vrindavan is shown by Akrura. Let's see how much more we have in this chapter. We have quite a bit more. Okay. Let's go back. Okay, we will end here and take some questions. And so this is, okay, we just started 38A. Okay, so let's see, unmute you. Okay, who has a question? Raise your hand. Oh, Rakesh, you always have a question. Okay, Rakesh, ask a question quickly. It has to be about the subject matter of this class, not anything you want to ask about.
No, it's this class. My question is, Gurudev.
Wait a second. Right, start your question now.
My question is, Gopis spoke to Krishna that what kind of a person he is, and he says he's not ungrateful, but and Krishna told Gopis, you should be happy and satisfied with your service to me. In a material world, that kind of words would be interpreted as a very, very selfish nature.
Yes.
Then how do you relate? He's like, I know he's not, but I'm just wondering, this words can be interpreted by my boss itself. Oh, you should be happy. Don't ask for a pay rise. So I'm like,
the devotion to Krishna is the highest benediction. That's why. Devotion to Krishna gives you eternal bliss, knowledge, and a place in the spiritual world. I mean, it's not just, Krishna said, you have to love me, but, I don't care for you. But Krishna gave them the greatest benediction, which is bhakti. So that's not a selfish thing. I mean, we love to have bhakti, or love for Krishna. And so that's not selfish. Okay, someone else should ask a question. Okay, someone else raise your hand, or anybody else raise your hand, or type in the chat window if you have a question.
Please accept my obeisance.
Yes, Gopal.
Gurudev, in the prayers of Akrura, we can see that so many devotees, the demigods, so many people who worship Krishna and followed all the laws of the material nature were able to satisfy all of their material desires and yet still remain as devotees.
Yes.
So why is it that things like Kali Yuga happen and people get entangled in all sorts of things that simply make themselves miserable and don't actually satisfy their desires in the first place, and then makes it even worse?
Do you think the demigods actually satisfy their desires?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been there.
No. I mean, of course, the pure devotees, the only way to satisfy the desires is desire to please Krishna, because, as Krishna says in the Gita, avritam gyani aitena yanino nityavayana kamarupena kontiya dushprena lenacha, that these desires, when you try to fulfill them, it's like throwing petrol. They're never satisfied and they burn like fire. So, like Indra, take Indra for example. Yes, he gets what he wants, but it doesn't satisfy his desires. There's a difference. Because he's a Sakama devotee, he gets what he wants, but it further agitates him. And that's why Indra is continually going after even the wives of sages, like Gautama Rishi, Ahalya. Gautama Rishi's wife, Ahalya. So, their desires are not satisfied. They get the fruits of their desires. There's a difference between getting the fruits of your desire and having your desires satisfied.
So how is it
Right?
that devotees like Bali Maharaj and other devotees who engage in all sorts of worldly affairs and so many things that they desire to do, they do it and they become satisfied and they don't,
Yeah,
their
because
desires don't
ultimately,
grow like you.
ultimately they gave up their desires.
But they still do
Oh,
their duty even
yeah,
after
they do
showing their
their
devotion.
duty. Yeah, they do their duty, but they have no more material desires. You know, Bali Maharaj surrendered Atmani Vedanam. He surrendered everything to Krishna, so he did his duty. Obviously, he became Indra in the future, and he was a good Indra without any spiritual problems because he is one of the Mahajanas, the Dwadasa Mahajanas. So yes, he got, or Dhruva Maharaj got uh, his desire. He got the fruits of his desire. I'm using very specific language, and his desires were fulfilled because he became a pure devotee. He said, when he got the benediction of the Lord or saw the Lord, he said, "I was looking for some broken pieces of glass, and now I found a valuable jewel or gem." So actually, his desires were fulfilled. But the only way to fulfill a desire is to basically not have that desire nagging at you anymore. And the only way to not have that desire nagging at you anymore is basically to love Krishna.
So the demigods, they're specifically engaging their desires in Krishna's service. I mean, they're
Uh,
doing their duty on behalf of Lord Vishnu.
sometimes they get carried away
So why is that? Why doesn't Lord Vishnu protect them within their hearts from being carried away?
because they have free will. And you
I
could
see.
say, why does Lord Vishnu protect any of his Sakama devotees or devotees, let's say in the Krishna conscious movement? We've seen people fall down.
Yes.
Why doesn't he protect them? Because they have free will.
Mm.
That's why. And it's always surrendering to Krishna is a moment to moment affair.
Mm.
It's not that I surrender to Krishna. Okay, Krishna, take away my free will. No, devotee devotee doesn't pray to Krishna to take away their free will in terms of surrendering to Krishna or not surrendering to Krishna, because that would make them a non-entity. Only a stone, unless a stone is a person, I don't know, but only something that's inanimate has no free will. Something without a soul has no free will.
Thank you, Gurdeep.
Okay,
That's very cool.
okay. Next one, Atmanandani. It says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, if Krishna wants us to come back to his abode, then why desire to go back to Goloka is considered inferior to staying back and engaged in service? That's actually a good question. Well, actually, in order to go back to Godhead, to Goloka, one has to be ready to go wherever Krishna wants. Narayana parak sarve nakotashchana vibhiti swaga pavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshana. It's not necessarily inferior, but in order to actually go back to Godhead, you have to be ready for wherever Krishna wants to send you. So we should want to go back to Godhead, Goloka. I mean, Prabhupada said that. And then you get these pure, absolutely pure devotees, then it's just like wherever you want to send me, Krishna. You send me back to Godhead like that, or you keep me in the material world, or send me to hell to preach. That's a famous verse that's spoken by Lord Shiva. Narayana parak sarve nakoteshchana viviti swarga pavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshana. The topmost devotee of Narayan sees heaven, hell, or going back to God is the same, because wherever he or she goes, that's the same. They're doing the same thing. You go to hell, you preach. You go to earth, you preach. You go to heaven, you preach. And you go back to Godhead, I wouldn't say exactly preach, but you serve. So, okay, just one more question. Beverly, you have a question? You can unmute yourself.
Would like to know at what point does Krishna says that's it? I mean, even the demons of hell get salvation by touching Krishna. So at what point does Krishna draw the line? Or does he ever?
About what?
Well, I mean, his love. I mean, not going back to Godhead. Does Krishna refuse anybody, or you understand?
No,
Because like the
Krishna
demons.
always gives people, he gives every living entity another chance. Although, if someone is extremely demonic, they're put into, according to Krishna the Gita, lower and lower species of life. And the translation is never to approach Krishna, but actually there's no never. Ultimately, the no eternal never. That they'll always get another opportunity to take up Krishna consciousness. Krishna never condemns anyone eternally. It's not like we find in some versions of the Christian philosophy, not the real Christian philosophy, that if someone doesn't make it in one lifetime, then that's it. If he makes a philosophical error, choosing the wrong path or wrong type of action or whatever, then he goes to hell eternally. There's always another chance. Krishna will always give us another chance because he is, Hey Krishna Karnana Sindhu, Dinabandhu Jagapate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radhakanta Namostute. Krishna is Karna Sindhu. Karna Sindhu means he's an ocean of mercy and compassion. Anyway, thank you very much. It's been nice reading the Krishna book. Tomorrow we'll probably be giving a class in the temple. We'll try to do it at exactly the same time. And then the next day we'll continue with our Krishna book reading. But this is pretty exciting, reading about Krishna's pastimes. And we're going very quickly through the Krishna book. And I love this. It's very enlivening to me. I look forward to this reading every evening. So thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada,